For more than a century, iron rails stitched North America together. Before highways rolled across the landscape and jetliners traced invisible paths through the sky, it was the railroad that was the fastest, most reliable way to move people and freight across vast distances. Towns boomed around depots, industries thrived because there was always a rail car waiting, and the rhythm of steam engines became the heartbeat of a growing nation. But as technology changed and new forms of transportation arose, the heartbeat slowed, and in many places it stopped altogether. Across the United States and Canada lie thousands of miles of abandoned railroad routes, and tucked within them, hundreds of tunnels that once pushed through mountains, under rivers, and through bridges that once seemed unpassable. Estimates compiled by railroad historians and field researchers list well over 1,700 official railroad abandonments across North America, spanning thousands of miles of former track and countless structures like bridges and tunnels. These abandoned routes include over 130 known railroad tunnels across the United States that are no longer in rail service, some as short as hundreds of feet and others extending over a mile into the earth. Many more exist beyond documented lists, tucked away on private property or forgotten grades. Long before modern tunnel boring machines, every inch of these passageways through rock was hard won. Construction crews in the 19th and early 20th century faced conditions that bordered on brutal. Men drilled holes by hand or with primitive percussion drills, packed them with black powder or early nitroglycerin, and blasted rock free in a cycle of explosion and excavation. Timber supports were installed to prevent collapses, and crews worked in clouds of dust and choking steam. In Appalachia and the Northeast, tunnels required digging through folded layers of shale and sandstone, with water constantly seeping in. In the Rockies, crews contended with thin air, extreme cold, and hard granite that resisted every drill bit. At high elevations like the former Hadrian Tunnel in Colorado, one of the highest railroad tunnels in the world at over 11,500 feet, crews battled not just rock but weather, logistics, and an environment that could turn deadly in an instant. Beyond the physical challenge was the human cost. Accidents, poorly understood explosives, collapsing rock, and disease took a toll. Many workers were immigrants, laboring with few protections as they carved these subterranean paths. The sheer effort reflects just how vital rail access was considered for commerce and settlement. As the 20th century progressed, the U.S. transportation landscape changed rapidly. Cars and trucks grew in popularity, paved highways were built, and freight began to shift away from rail. Roads offered flexibility trains couldn't match, especially for short hauls. Railroads continued to carry heavy freight over long distances, but many secondary routes, the ones that once brought coal from remote mines or connected small towns, saw traffic dwindle. Large rail companies consolidated, and routes that had been profitable in the 1800s or early 1900s were cut from timetables and maps. Tracks were lifted, trestles removed, and tunnels plugged or simply left to the elements. In the eastern United States, Appalachia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio, and New England, the highest concentration of abandoned tunnels remains. These regions were early rail pioneers and saw massive networks built to haul coal, timber, and manufacture goods out of rugged terrain. Many of these tunnels, some only a few thousand feet long, were bypassed by new alignments or abandoned when the industry they served dried up. By contrast, in the vast expanses of the Rockies and the Pacific Northwest, there were fewer tunnels total, but the ones that exist are often longer and more dramatic, carved through granite and volcanic rock. Some, like the Alpine Tunnel in Colorado, one of the first railroad tunnels through the Continental Divide, now stand silent, hikers' destinations rather than conduits for commerce. But abandonment doesn't always mean forgotten. Some tunnels have found new lives. A notable example is the old Blue Ridge Tunnel in Virginia, built in the 1850s as part of an early mountain crossing project. The original 4,200-foot bore was eventually replaced by newer alignments and fell out of use. Decades later, after stabilization work and careful restoration, it was reopened as a linear park and recreational trail, allowing walkers and cyclists to experience that slice of history firsthand. In cities like Chicago, complex networks of early freight tunnels once used to move goods and materials beneath busy streets, now sit unused or have been partially repurposed for utilities and communication infrastructure. Elsewhere, abandoned grades have become rail trails, public parks, or scenic hiking corridors. Many tunnel portals that were once dark and foreboding now welcome day hikers, bikers, and history buffs. Where rails once clanged, silence often prevails. Rainwater drips into forgotten bores, roots creep through cracks in masonry, and wildlife from bats to small mammals make homes where once only steel wheels passed. In Ohio, abandoned railroad tunnels inadvertently became bat hibernicula, echoing with life long after trains disappeared. These relics are more than just holes in hillsides. They are records of ambition, engineering, and change. They remind us of a time when the only practical way to span a mountain was to drill through it, and when the heartbeat of a nation could be measured by the pulse of locomotive engines. Every abandoned rail line and forgotten tunnel tells a story of human struggle, of technological triumph, of shifting economic tides, and of nature reclaiming what was once pierced by steel and sweat. They are not just places on a map, they are chapters in the history of North America's journey from frontier to modern nation. If you liked this video and this type of content, please subscribe.